Welcome to episode 11 of the Not Brothers podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the idea in product development of if you build it, they will come. A quote from the old school film Field of Dreams, which Ryan has never seen because if it's before 2002, he's probably never seen the movie. But I think the analogy holds true, and I think it applies in a lot of different things. Software development, especially in today's world, being a huge piece of it, which is because it's easier to vibe code your way to a potential product for a niche market set. There's a lot of groups that are doubling down on product development instead of understanding distribution alongside product development. And so that's sort of the core of and the root of the conversation for today. And what prompted some of this was giving credit where credit's due, a podcast from a guy named Greg Eisenberg, which was shared with us. And in his podcast, he runs a podcast called the Startup Ideas Podcast. And in the podcast, he runs through this idea of the pecking order and the hierarchy of Silicon Valley or any software as a service sort of solution set or group has changed in the last couple of years, arguably in the last 6 months. And that pecking order used to be developers being at the top of the food chain and it wasn't close, product people being somewhere in the middle, and then marketers or distributors being at the very bottom and almost being the laughing stock of that pyramid. And over the course of time, that pyramid is almost flipped exactly upside down, which is this idea that distribution or the art of distribution becomes far more important than product, which is still important, is still number two, which is now far, far, far more important than the actual development / coders, which has become more commoditized over time. And I think maybe there's some truth to that, maybe there's not. And he argues 7 principles on the distribution side that we're going to kind of pick apart a little bit here as part of the podcast. So, Ryan, first, what's your take on the pecking order argument? Is that a real thing? Is that a misnomer? Is that somebody trying to make themselves feel better about their skills?
Oh, I've heard 100 versions of it, right? And more often than not, whoever is now at the top just happens to be the type of person that's delivering the message. So I think that, I don't think as much has changed as most people would like you to believe. I think that for the most part, there's still a lot that's out there, right? If we rewind to pre-AI, like we can have the best fucking product in the world, but it doesn't matter if nobody buys it. And we saw this play. VHS and Betamax was the thing back in the day. Blu-ray and DVD plus, like the DVD plus spec was a better spec than the Blu-ray spec. It was cheaper to produce, but it didn't have Sony. Mm-hmm. So I think this has always been true, right? So I don't think as much has changed as people would like us to believe, even down to, building software. We build a lot of software. We built software for years. There are certain things now that are fundamentally easier to do. And they weren't hard to do before. They were just time consuming. There are things that are still very difficult to do and concepts that are still very difficult to understand. And those require, experience and the things that come with that. So, I just don't think it's changed as much as everybody would like us to believe. As much as that doesn't make a good headline, right? Like it doesn't create an interactive video or a clickable link or a post that people are going to interact with to say like, hey guys, everything stayed pretty much the fucking same.
I don't think I agree with you. I think the biggest difference here, using your example of Sony and the Betamax versus the VHS era, I think the biggest difference here is the speed at which the product moat can be overcome. So in today's world, using that analogy, there could have been a 3rd, 4th, and 5th competitor that sat alongside those top 2 within a week. And so the product as a moat, especially in software, is not the same as it used to be because it's so much faster to iterate in product development. And so that's not the moat anymore. The moat is distribution, which is not replicable by AI at all. And it never was. but now it's more important than it was before.
I think that's still, I mean, I think my argument is it's still the same, right? I think that like Salesforce is a shitty CRM. It has been for 10 years. There have been better CRMs. There have been millions of dollars built and or invested in that marketplace, and they're still the top dog. And it's because of distribution. Like it's because they already have the contracts. It's because they have their sales team. Oracle, I have no idea why anybody buys an Oracle database. Still to this day, you're paying an exorbitant amount of money for something that there are plenty of alternatives. They're just as good. And what you're paying for is the ability for it, like if it goes down, we get to say like, well, we bought Oracle, right? So you pay a few $1,000,000 so that you have somebody to blame, but it's not fundamentally better. It's not that much fucking better than a lot of other solutions that just exist that your engineering team could spin up. So I think it hasn't changed all that much, because I think that I agree that the speed, right, the speed at which we can see like alternatives pop up, but it's they just die, right? They pop up, better solutions pop up, and then they just die out and fizzle out even faster because they're only partially baked when they come out of the door. But I mean, we've used a lot of systems over the years, and that first mover's advantage is still really, really big. Dethroning whoever owns that marketplace is really, really difficult. And I think it all comes down to the distribution paths at the end of the day.
Yeah. So one thing that we've talked about over the course of time is this idea that smaller solution sets will be popping up everywhere and are currently, and we're actively working on some of those to fit niche marketplaces and fit niche needs. And that's a great thing, right? So things that used to take a team of 2 years to develop and solve and really get to a place where it's hardened and it's a place where it really is marketable is no longer the case. You can get to that within a period of months rather than years and feel pretty good about what it is and then get user feedback.
Well, I do think that changes the landscape a little bit, right? It used to be, when we look at a lot of products that have come to market over time, it used to be that the only way to really bring a product to market is like you had to go for the king, right? It wasn't enough. It was never enough to come in with a niche product and build, the best CRM for dentist offices, right? There's just not enough money there, because in order to build the product and maintain it, you need a staff and a team that's so large. And in order to distribute it, you need a staff and a team that's so large. So you're carrying a few $1,000,000 worth of expenses just to build the product in the end. So you're not satisfied. It's not possible to float that and run something that's profitable on just that niche. So then you start watering it down. You go, well, maybe we're all medical, and maybe we're all, and then slowly it's like you become Salesforce, right? You're everybody to everything and not really anything to anyone. And I think that equation has shifted and changed fundamentally over the past 2 years. Definitely within this year. And I think that's kind of maybe the core of what the guy was talking about, is like, it's now possible, like the multi-million-dollar single person company is a possibility today, right? Where we could have a niche idea for a CRM for dentist offices. I'm sure there probably is one now that we're going to find after this. I'm going to feel like a dumbass talking about this as an example, but it'll be like a CRM for dentist offices, and I can have the idea. We could build the thing. You could market the thing, and you could do that with one, maybe 2-3 people, and have a pretty compelling thing. Now you take that and you distribute that across the landscape, and if you own CRM for dentist offices, that's a pretty compelling case. It's not $1 million company.
Correct.
It's a few $1 million company.
That 100% is his argument, right? Remember, this is the Startup Ideas podcast, and for niche players, for groups that are trying to go after not multi-billion-dollar brands, because you're not going to unseat a competitor with that. But if you're a niche product, of which we are pursuing currently several niche products that kind of fit these categories, then you got to think about this idea of distribution. And I can tell you definitively, thinking about this idea of distribution for a product that has no user audience currently is challenging. It's difficult to really think about and push through. So like, some of the 7 ideas that he has that I think we should just step through. And I'm curious about your opinion, because you haven't seen this in its full length yet, but you have opinions across all these things. So one of the ideas is, in strategy number 1 is his idea of using MCP servers as your sales team. And you have strong feelings about MCP servers in particular. What his thought is as people are using AI to discover other solutions and tools or whatever, it's the first potential path and an easy one for you to spin up and try to get some level of distribution. Not the only, and maybe not even the best, but it's one that should be on your radar as something to spin up to get that first level of distribution. What are your thoughts on that?
I think his idea could make sense. His idea is basically use AI for distribution, right? And use tooling to do that. I fucking hate MCP. I think it was a terrible protocol. I think it does nothing but just chew up context, right? Like, you add a couple of MCP servers to your system, and you'll find that just saying hello goes from being, 6 tokens to being 60,000 tokens. You're just absolutely shredding everything. And I think it's just because it's a wildly inefficient setup. There are better options now, right? Using skills through skills are even better, and I've found that as potential replacements to a lot of MCPs just by itself, because it adds a little bit of token weight, but it's much smaller. And then through progressive disclosure allows a natural way to get more information, right? Like, the other one is using CLIs. CLI tools are incredibly efficient and AI friendly, because again, they allow that progressive disclosure. You can say, hey, here's a CLI that you can use to do all of these sorts of activities. When you're ready for that, just run the -- help command, and you can find out all the details that you need to know and kind of dig in, and it can use those tools efficiently. That's the general idea, I think, behind MCP. The problem is MCP gives you everything. So it's like reading the encyclopedia every time you try to do anything. Which I just don't think is useful. It becomes really costly, it becomes really slow because of that. So
yeah, so maybe there are alternatives to MCP, but the idea here of trying to find distribution via using MCP, CLI, any of the other AI friendly mechanisms to do so, skills, you can kind of pick your stack of how you do that, but it's something that you should consider, and we should consider even as part of our niche product promotion / distribution path in the future. Path number 2 is going to make your skin crawl. You don't know these yet, but number 2 is programmatic SEO. So the idea of, and he even talks through as part of his episode, he's like, I hate that I'm even saying this out loud, because some of the old school tactics of keyword stuffing and all these other things, he's like, I live those days. I live that era. We're in a place right now where, creating programmatic SEO, going through this idea of creating, in his words, 10,000 pages in a weekend, makes my skin crawl from what it means from an overall potential slop perspective. Is it possible to do, depending on your niche product and your categories and how much tooling you put on the front end to make it better? Maybe, but what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are I fucking hate it, but it probably isn't. I mean, there's no escaping that, like, the world that we live in right now with social media and discovery and search being the way that it is like almost perfectly designed for absolute fucking slop factories, which is a real problem, right? Like, when we saw OpenClaw come out, and we've talked about that a few times, the first thing people did with it and like wanted to do with it was automate Twitter. They're like, cool, now I can post all this stuff on X all the time. And didn't help that X created like a better API to make that even easier to do right after it came out. And I remember seeing the creator of OpenClaw time and time again, like, please, for the love of God, don't fucking do that. And like, if you look at LinkedIn now, that's all it is. Like, LinkedIn is a wasteland of AI generated content. It's just AIs talking to AIs. So I hate it. Like, I hate that that's a thing. But when you have all of the metrics and tooling designed to prioritize basically the loudest voice in the room, and all of the other ones are just churning out absolute slop, and people are responding to it, right? That's the thing. People are actually interacting with and responding to the stuff. Because if people would just stop, if they would stop interacting with AI garbage, then you wouldn't be incentivized to create it. But the way it works now and the way the world works, there's an incentive there, and it's hard to get over. Like, if everybody else is doing it, well, I guess we might as well. I guess we have to do it too, whether we like it or not.
The fourth one is adjacent to that, but it's not exactly the same. So programmatic SEO is this idea of 10,000 pages or articles or whatever else. The adjacent one is answer engine optimization, which kind of goes in parallel to that piece, but not directly and exactly. So the way that Greg puts it in his podcast is, he says, think about and do all the keyword research as to what questions are your niche audience asking regularly, and just provide answers quite literally to those questions in a schema that AI can read extraordinarily easily and do it at scale. So it's a little different than just content production for content production's sake. It's literally answering the schema of what are people asking questions for, so that you literally show up in this, potential new zone of people not even looking or thinking they have a need for this niche product, but you own those answers for that niche product, and you kind of create this moat in the early days of what this can look like. I thought that was an interesting idea, and because it's a little bit different, it's not really so much content slop generation for production's sake. It's more
no, that's good old fashioned inbound marketing, is what that is.
Pretty much. Yep.
Right? That I think is great. I think that's what everybody should do, right? If you have a business, you should be regularly answering questions for your users and providing useful content for them in that fashion. And I think that going the further step is making sure that it's also presented in a way that AI bots like it, right? So presenting it in such a way that it's AI friendly. They can get to, they can parse all the information out of your site. Will, I think, eventually help with that. Because like Google, I was going to say the big search engines, but it's basically Google and Google. Google is not incentivized to allow this to kind of go on forever, right? They are incentivized to figure out how can we provide the best content to our users. That's always been sort of their purpose and vision. So I think that over time, as we see like AI search become a bigger thing, they're going to be trying to figure out like, how do we weed out the 10,000 pages of garbage and get to the things that are actually solving problems. So the 10,000 pages of garbage, like that's all just slop that's going to be disposable. Eventually we're going to like, that's keyword stuffing 2.0, right? We did it. It was there. And then eventually it all got ripped out. And I think that'll happen with that stuff too at some point. The truly valuable content is timeless, right? The answers and how to solve problems that people are asking for, that stuff's timeless and it lasts forever. So I think that's great.
Another tactic that I thought was a good one to explore and maybe talk about with us together is this idea of, it wasn't really economical to invest in free tools for software solutions or even service businesses or whatever, right? It required real development talent. It required, you to spend energy on something small versus on something bigger with a potential bigger payoff. So this idea is a free tool as a top of the funnel tactic. So like this is your evaluation, or this is a free version of a something, or what, pick your niche. So in your example of a dentist CRM, are you ready for a CRM with your dentist practice? And it's not just a questionnaire. It's like an evaluation with a score and whatever at the end, right? Those are so much easier to make in today's world with vibe coding than it was, 2-3 years ago, where you literally had to have a development team help you with that. And I think that's a great example of a distribution tactic that I think many people or more people should take advantage of. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think those are great. I think we've used that for a long time, right? Being a small team with developers within our team, we've been able to sort of fast track some of those through and not make it as difficult to get out the door. And we've seen success with those over time of being able to build little tools that people can interact with. I think it's also a good way to build engagement with the brand itself. So, rather than it just kind of being like my interaction being just reading things and understanding about like what your brand is, I'm actually getting sort of in a way to like touch and feel it, and play with it. I think that's also why a lot of companies have the like pricing calculator, right, where you can just kind of slide it and see like, if you have 50 projects and 500 people, you'll save X number of dollars per year.
Yep. It's a perfect example, a very small version of that, but it's how are you adding value to that top of the funnel as immediately as possible to go, to obviously add value in the first place, but build a little brand equity in the process as well. And I think the next one kind of goes in that a similar art or similar vein with that, which is like this idea of making output shareable. So his thinking is, think about products that you use as a consumer. And this applies to both B2B and B2C, but it's the easiest way to illustrate it when you think about B2C examples, like Spotify. Spotify has its end of year, your year, your you, whatever the theme is of the year, where they kind of output this thing of, this is what you listen to most, and these are your top songs and your top artists. And they get millions and millions of people to share those things, which promote the brand and says a little bit of something personal about the individual that's doing that sharing. And you can think about those examples and how that applies to your niche product or your niche service or any of those other things, and how those outputs can be interactive. I thought that was a really interesting one that I don't know a lot of non-consumer based businesses that are doing all that. Some of these, the last two on this list, one is this idea of buying a niche newsletter. I've never really pursued that. We've talked about like buying niche distribution lists and whatever. His takes it one step further than that. And he says there are likely people that aren't making very much money that already have these owned distribution lists, and they've been peddling things within your niche category for a very long period of time. And so his idea is like, well, what if you just approach these people that own these distribution lists and they're trusted sources? This isn't like just firing off a random email to a group that already exists. It's buying the entirety of the list, like buying the company, buying the small company that only makes $500 a month or something, but has 2,000 subscribers in your niche community and would take a $5,000 buyout in a heartbeat. It's like, well, interesting strategy. Haven't pursued that at all personally, but for certain niches probably holds some water.
Called spam.
No, it's an own distribution. All you're doing is continuing. It's like, actually, I take that back. We did do this sort of, kind of. So like, think back to the day with MCD, where we were inheriting a distribution list and a trusted source. We didn't do much with it because we didn't see the value and the energy to put in it at the time, but kind of the same idea.
What we bought the whole product, and that it came with an email list for that product, and we furthered that email list for that product. But I think that as soon as you start sending that list things they didn't sign up for, that's spam, and it happens all the time. Right? My inbox is full of them. They're purchasing my email from some data broker somewhere, or harvesting it from something. I think I even sent you one from Mars Hill, where like I donated something to support your kid, and then they started emailing me stuff like, here's what's going on at Mars Hill. I'm like, I don't fucking care. I did not sign up for an email list. What you did is you took the donation list and you were like, all of these people now care about us. Like, I don't care. I don't want to see that. I would have signed up for the email list. So I have very strong opinions about email marketing and the ethics and what should be done and shouldn't be done there. It's not even about ethics at that point. It's like, I will never, if you send me a cold fucking email that I didn't sign up for, I will never purchase your product. Just out of spite.
You do have very strong feelings and opinions about that, no doubt. But for some groups,
So whether it's effective for whether it's an effective tactic or not, it probably is, unfortunately. And people are going to do it. They're going to keep doing it because why wouldn't they do it? And that's
if email marketing didn't
just
work, people wouldn't do it.
Yeah. So everybody stop buying shit that people send to you in your emails, and then maybe they'll stop.
If
And that's another one that, like, I don't have the stats on it to say, but like, since OpenClaw kind of like started this problem, right? Where it exposed to a whole crowd of people the idea that you can automate all of these sorts of activities. And like, this is like the second one, right? The first thing people wanted to do was automate posting things on Twitter. The second thing was like, oh, I can do email outreach now. There's all sorts of, I've seen dozens of them where it's like, you have your OpenClaw agent go research and scour the internet for email addresses, write personalized emails to those people, and then just send them. And people were just doing that like crazy. Then Claude has their version of OpenClaw, right? Like, it has expanded. And I think we see the outputs of that in that, like, I use Hey, right? I funnel all of my email, even from Oodle, over to Hey. And so nothing goes in my inbox without going through the screener. And like, in the past 90 days, the amount of people that I have to screen has gone through the roof. And like, I don't have actual hard data, but I can say that like, I've never seen 60 people in my screeners before. And I've seen 60 people in my screeners like in the past 90 days.
Yep.
Just backlogged. Like, I haven't bothered to screen them. And like, in a week, I get, probably between 20 to 30 new people every single week.
And that level of automation isn't going away anytime soon. So you have Claude doing their thing with their versions of OpenClaw. You have Perplexity building their own universe of their versions and of OpenClaw.
Sure, it just made it worse, right? Everybody always had this desire to like, wouldn't it be great if I could reach out to people who don't want to talk to me, and I don't want to spend the effort to actually reach out to them. So wouldn't it be great if I could just do that automatically, right? The opposite is like, now you have tools on my side where I'm like, well, shit, I need to build a tool to just automatically delete all of those. And so now we've just got, you don't want to take the time to reach out to me, and I don't want to take the time to tell you to go fuck yourself. So we just have both of our tools just burning. Who wins? OpenAI and Anthropic, because all we're doing is burning you burn tokens to send me shit I don't want. I burn tokens to identify it as shit I don't want and delete it.
That's a funny way to put it, but it's kind of true.
It's so true. And it's like, I mean, we see it in email too. This is why I think that AI doesn't belong in email at all. Like, I wish there was a way to just block it from. I don't think AI belongs in any communication layer. That's my fundamental belief. Right? Social media shouldn't be in social media, shouldn't be in email, shouldn't be in any communication layer. Because the whole point is communication. And, you see like all of these tools, like Microsoft was one of the first ones to shove it down everybody's throat with Copilot, where like, now Copilot can send your emails. I'm like, why don't you just send me the email? Like, why don't you just say instead of sending me some like overly fluffy garbage that AI wrote, just say what you wanted to say. Because the reality is, I don't want to read that fluffy garbage either. So I'll run it through an AI tool that just says, like, tell me what the fuck they're trying to say. And then and then like, if I used it, it'd be like, draft a response. So then it's just like, my AI is talking to sending an email that your AI can read it and tell you what you want to know so that your AI can turn around and reply. And like, eventually, like, well, what's the purpose of the communication?
It's my bot talking to your bot.
Yeah, why not just say like, hey man, you want to come over later? No. Okay. Not like, I'm reaching out today to make a formal request that we get together later today, somewhere between the hours of 5 and 6. I'm thinking we could do one of these 5 activities that could be fun and good for team building.
What's wrong with that email, Ryan?
Everything's wrong with that email.
All right, the last area to explore and beat up a little bit is kind of adjacent to that, which is this idea of AI content repurposing engine. And so this is kind of building on something that we believe in as marketers in general, and we tell our clients to do this, which is pick one or two cornerstones. It could be a blog, it could be a podcast, it could be some video thing that isn't actually a podcast, but it's something else. We have something called 5-minute marketing hour that we've used for Oodle marketing work for a long time, and use that as a way to create a content flywheel, so to speak. So that one piece of content that you create becomes 10, 15, 20, 30 pieces of content. And we do that for this podcast as well, right? We have the long form podcast, which is the cornerstone. And then we take that cornerstone and we turn it into a blog post, and we turn it into a web page, and we turn it into 10, 15, 20 different short form clips based on ideas and based on themes and whatever else. And so doing that, but doing it amplified. So take that and then taking it and doing it in a way that is faster than what it used to be. Because it used to literally take human beings, and we've experienced this pain over a long period of time. It took humans weeks to do it, and it took way more dollars than was worth spitting out those pieces of content on their own. Now, if you, with the right tools and the right skills put in place and the right parameters, you can get to a place where most of that is in an automated way. You still need a human eye to look at it, and you still need a human eye to like course correct, especially if the skills are off. But you can get to a place where much of that is in, like a real flywheel where you produce the cornerstone, and 80, 90% of your cobblestone flywheel is done for you. And the 5-10% is you course correcting and dialing up, dialing down, which is a unique place to be. And I don't think most organizations are anywhere close to doing that for their own content engines. I think most people are still stuck in the, well, I made the video, I'm not sure what to do next kind of situation.
Yeah, and I mean, again, that's an area where like AI can obviously be very helpful, and I think it would be silly to not use it there. Because again, you're kind of parsing through a lot of data and trying to extract the few bits, right? We can sit here and ramble for 45 minutes. We could start recording and just say like, ramble for 8 hours and be like, all right, there's like 5 things in here that were actually valuable, and the rest of it was just us just talking about what we're doing. And I think that's an area that like absorbing a ton of information, identifying patterns, and extracting those patterns is what the current generation of AI is really good at. So it's a great use of it. It's a great application to help produce content that otherwise wouldn't be produced, especially by smaller groups of people or even an individual, right, where time is limited. And then just being able to extract that piece and say, okay, I've got this piece of content, review it, maybe clip it a little, maybe I clip it a little bit and, kind of tune it because it wasn't exactly right. But it gets me 90% of the way there, which gets me closer to being able to share and make a little bit more noise in sort of the ecosystem that we live in, where, if everybody in your industry is posting 10 times a day, you better be posting at least 10 times a day. Because if you're the guy that's still posting one, that could be a really solid quality piece of content, but it's going to get swallowed up by all the other stuff that maybe not even is even as good.
Yeah, in social land right now, in particular with shorts and whatnot, the For You pages are literally making it possible for one person, one time, getting lucky in a piece of content, but the vast majority of that stuff never makes it to the For You page. And so amplification and volume has never been more important. And obviously you don't want to produce complete slop, but that's we're in this tricky balancing act of volume is probably better than quality within reason.
I think with social media, we've always been there.
Yeah.
Right. Like we've dealt with this over time. Obviously, we've done a lot of social media management for ourselves, for our clients. We've run a lot of advertising on social media, so we're pretty in tune with how the social sphere works. And the best way to get in front of people is either volume or pay. Quality has a factor, but like it doesn't be volume.
Nope.
and you know, the volume can usually lead to your quality post doing better anyways, because you know, you get some level of discovery around the other posts that maybe aren't as good, that then lead to people discovering the better posts, because they click through, or they find more, they interact, and then that floats more content up into their page. It's you know, it's not as simple of an equation as we'd like it to be, but one that we're stuck living with for the foreseeable future.
So circling back to the topic at hand to kind of close this out, is we talked about this idea that in today's world, it is easier to create product in the form of software in particular than it's ever been. And even to create or spin up a new service-based website for a new service business or any of those things on your own has never been easier. And that's wonderful. But if you build it, they will come, just like in Field of Dreams, is untrue in a modern setting. In the movie, it worked, but that's not.
Isn't that what I was going to say? Isn't that like the whole premise of the movie?
Yes.
Is they did, like, he built the thing and then the people just showed up?
But it's a movie, and we know movies are not real life. So in real life, if you build it, they will come is not really a thing for the vast majority of free market enterprise. And so finding ways of distribution in this conversation by way of using AI tools and technology to amplify things that already work and hopefully avoid things that don't, not contribute and not contribute to the slop game that is being played, is kind of the purpose of what we talked about here today. So until next time.
Until next time.